Welcome back to another episode of How Did They Grow? I created this podcast because I wanted you to learn how other coaches, freelancers, service providers, and course sellers are growing their business, landing 10 to 20 new clients every single month, paying them 50, 100, 200K months. See, if they've done it, you can too. And that's just the reality. And I want you to listen to these podcasts to understand what strategies are they using, what techniques are they exploring, because it's in these gems that you can apply it to your business and actually scale things up. When you're ready and you feel like you actually want to learn practical, proven methodologies, or even you want to hire a team that can build you a profitable personal brand, book in a chat with our team because we can guarantee you go viral and guarantee you get clients for your business.
And welcome to the podcast, guys. It's the How Did They Grow podcast. And today we have Dr. Renice. Tell us a bit about yourself, Dr. Renice.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm honored. So, hey, everyone, my name is Dr. Renice Khalif, and I'm a medically trained acupuncture physician that helps top performers really reclaim their health through a very, very unique and ancient technique called element typing. I'm the founder and CEO of Acupuncture Fit and virtualtcm.com. And I love really where my work is in creating custom traditional Chinese medicine health plans for people who suffer from pain, infertility, addiction, gut and hormone imbalance, and skin conditions, and even severe terminal and rare cases. And I love using my plans either in office or online through my virtual telehealth practice. I believe that everyone can achieve optimal health by integrating a lot of ancient wisdom through traditional Chinese medicine practices in their lives. I'm honored and very proud contributor to Dr. Josh Axe's book called Ancient Remedies, where he dives into how traditional Chinese medicine and this technique is going to help heal the world. Where you can find most of our work is going to be on our verified TikTok account with nearly 500,000 followers and fans and billions of views at Acupuncture Fit, where I love to share fun, short video tips on how to really take your health to the next level.
That's amazing, Dr. Renice. That's amazing. Tell us a bit about how you got here in terms of did you always want to be a doctor? How did that play out?
That's a great question. Early on, I knew I wanted to help people. I had an affinity to always be belly to belly, face to face, and now it's really cool with technology, screen to screen, and really interacting people day to day. I think that's what fuels me is kind of that connection. And I was raised by a very holistic, vitalistic family growing up. Back then, it was very healthy to eat margarine and drink Diet Coke. And, people really didn't care about food dyes. And my parents actually knew everything but that, and believed that, food is medicine and food can also be harmful as well. So, I was just that guy, man, that was always having the healthy food at lunch. And I came home from school one day and I was like, Mom, can I have some unhealthy real lunch food? And she's like, well, what do you mean? And she's like, white bread, cheesy chips, and a sugary drink. And so she packed that for me. Off to school, I went to with my real lunch, and I was so excited. I was, sharing it with my friends, and I wasn't just that kid with the hummus sandwich or the organic carrot only. And so I'll never forget, with eating all that processed food and sugar in one sitting, I felt like brain fog and fatigue. I felt the sugar rush and the sugar crash. And I came home that day and I looked at my mom and I'm like, Mom, I never want a real lunch again. And so, that was my first experience back in third grade. You are what you eat. And so that's kind of just the beginning of the journey. So if you fast forward, to kind of the climax of my story, the pivotal time of my story, which was very, very grim, is at the age of 22, I found myself sitting at this doctor's office table with the diagnosis of potential precancerous polyps in my colon. And I had some bleeding at the time, and the school clinic, the college I was going to, they said, you need to go see a specialist. And the specialist told me this, and I was just so distraught. But at that time, that's when my third grade brain kicked in. And I just knew, that living a very stressful time in college, I wasn't treating my body right. I wasn't eating the right foods. I wasn't really nourishing my body as well, I think, as I should have. Well, I thought I was. I was eating a lot of steak and protein and then a lot of raw vegetables. I thought that was, healthy, but apparently it was wreaking havoc on my health, along with, a lot of the other things that come with it. So to make a long story short, I went and found an orthopedic surgeon from China who developed this really, really cool technique where he integrates traditional Chinese medicine principles into the care of people who are going through pretty severe cases. And, along with everything else that I was doing, I decided to say, hey, you know what? Why not sign up for this? And I got to tell you, when I went into his office, he looked at me before even saying anything. He said, you have a problem with your colon. And I was like, wow, how'd you know that? Well, he saw some redness in my cheek. And according to traditional Chinese medicine, that means that you have internal fire. And I was like, wait, hold on 1 second. What the heck does that mean, internal fire? Anyway, essentially what it means, and what he told me, is that a lot of the foods that were going into my body was generating excess heat, burning the fluids that were helping everything lubricate and go through my gut. And, I was absolutely floored when he said that, and it just kind of felt right and made sense, right? And so through what's called element typing, he walked me through a really in-depth, individualized, personalized health personality and profile that really just turned my health 180 degrees. And after I started doing that, after I started changing what I was eating, even down to just like steaming my raw vegetables instead of eating them raw, and then also, maybe limiting some of the other foods that I was eating, I started to feel better. My brain fog went away. I had more energy that I could ever realize. My focus came back and my bleeding stopped. And that was about after, 90 days of his care. And so after that, I went back to the specialist, and they checked me out, and they're like, wow, everything is gone. And, they asked me, what did I do? And when I told them, they looked at me like I had two heads. And I said, you know what, I didn't care. I'll never look back. So I went back to his office and just totally changed what I thought I was going to do with my life, and said, I want to devote my life to this. So he took me under his wing and just really taught me, this technique that's rooted in ancient wisdom that's been around for thousands of years. And now I get to do this. I get to do this in practice, in our telehealth and our group coaching, and I get to share this message with hundreds of thousands of people across social media. So just super blessed to be able to know this. And again, thank you so much for having me on here to be able to let me share my story.
It's definitely a pleasure. Definitely a pleasure. That sounds like a real superhero story, man. Like, that's like the birth of a superhero. And now you are living that dream and sharing those powers with the world. And I think that's amazing. What's the name of that doctor? Just shout him out a bit wherever he is.
I know. Shout out to Dr. Ho, Huo. He's just incredible. He was in Orlando, Florida. Now he's over in Daytona. He's retired, but I meet with him and talk to him often. And he's just a great man, and so smart. He's done so much for humanity, and just forever grateful to know that technique, for sure.
Definitely. Tell us about your message now. Like, what is your message now? What is that message you're trying to get to the world? Like, and how are you using social media to sort of push that message?
Yeah, no, that's I love that question. Because what I did was I turned my mess into a message. I believe that understanding and knowing who you are and what your mission is really the key to messaging. I have many messages. I have messages for the business side of my business. I have messages for the patients who are trying to heal. But really, if you've successfully done the internal work and you're listening to this and you're a coach, and let's say you're trying to successfully leverage social media to your brand, to educate people on whatever it is. So for me, it's traditional Chinese medicine and in building a thriving health coaching practice. You're not just a practitioner. You're not just an entrepreneur. You're more than that. It's really who you are on a personal basis, and understanding and knowing that. So my message is about empowering people with knowledge, whether it's through their coaching, whether it's through their memberships or social media presence. You're showing up as coaches, as experts, and authenticity, consistency, and clarity are the key drivers to success across social media channels.
Yeah, you said authenticity, consistency, and clarity, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that all comes together. That all comes together in terms of like delivery, because I think I say this all the time that coaches, when they start their business, okay, they're doing it for money and they're trying to get stuff together. Not all of them, but that's how it usually starts. But then they graduate and they get to a point where it's like, it's not about the money anymore. I genuinely want to help more people. Like, if I wasn't getting paid, I would probably still do this, but obviously my bills got to get paid, you know what I mean? So they
Yeah.
graduate to that level where it's like, this is my life's work, you know.
So true. A big part of finding success, I believe, on social media or as a coach, and I'll go back to this even often, is really establishing your identity or your persona.
Mhm.
Maybe this is demonstrating a unique talent or skill, or maybe it's educating audiences with information that you have special knowledge on.
Yeah.
I just want to encourage you, if you're listening to this, to really think about writing out your message or your mission statement to help narrow down the type of content that you want to make, and really attract the right people. And
Mhm.
and one of the exercises, and there's actually four questions that I would encourage each and every one of you to do if you're interested in developing this further, and in identifying kind of your persona. It would be to ask yourself these four things. Number one is, what skill or passion can you share with others? And just stop. You don't have to write anything. You just kind of think about it. The second thing, and by the way, this podcast was recorded, so you're gonna be able to go back and listen to it. But the second thing is, what impact do you want to make when you're, well into your 60s, 70s, and 80s, and maybe even after you're gone? What's the legacy you want to leave on the world? And I want to encourage you to think really, really big. I think when I started to transition my thought process from just small thinking, like, oh, how can I maybe influence this, one little community, or, this, maybe state or nation? Like, when I started really thinking globally, is when my business took off, is when my health coaching practice took off. So second question is, what impact do you want to make? The third is going to be, what is the message that you would like to share with the world? Right. So I believe that this traditional Chinese medicine practice called element typing is going to be the key to unlock optimal health. Right. And so, like, what is that message that you want to share with everybody? And constantly share it. You can, like, there's no such thing as oversharing. People like to listen to it, and I promise you they'll like to listen to you. And then fourthly is, who are your favorite creators in the space that you're in, and why? And what I would encourage you to do is really research them, see what they're doing, what makes them successful. Maybe you can learn from their challenges, and following them and listening to podcasts maybe that they've recorded on, or articles that they've written, to learn from their mistakes, and capitalize on what's made them super successful. So I would say those are my four biggest questions that I would answer to respond to your question.
Yeah, definitely. You said, what is the skill that you have and you want to share? What is the legacy that you want to leave on the world? What is the message that you're pushing? And who are these creators that you're looking up to when you want to be like? These four things will help you find what you're doing on social media and give you a direction, right?
Absolutely.
I think that's amazing.
I hope you're enjoying this podcast. I hope you're taking notes. I hope you're learning so much practical wisdom, because that's what I really wanted from this podcast. Now, I just want to quickly say, if you're looking for a team that can actually help you explode and go viral with your personal brand with proven methodologies, I say this because I've been doing this for the past 5 years. We've got a team of 30 people who are ready to go ahead and explode your brand so you can get clients begging to work with you. Have a chat with one of our advisors. You can book in a chat using one of the links around this video, because that chat might just change your life.
So how long have you been, or how long, in fact, just tell us, the kind of the timeline. Did you start your business on social media? Or if you didn't, when did you adopt it? And how has the growth been to like 500K?
Oh, it has been a journey, brother. And it's not just about hard work, it's about smart work as well. So a little bit on the timeline, and then kind of, I would say, if I could pass on some tips, I'd love to share with people, what are the keys to really grow after you've developed this persona, after you really know yourself, you understand yourself, because really the key is trust. Knowing that you will deliver on what you say you're going to do is going to be so key. and also being intentional with your time. So I didn't start off right away on social media. You know, I was in practice for about brick and mortar practice for about 10 years, just grinding it out. And all of a sudden, you know, COVID set in and I was forced to shut down my practice. You know, family to feed, and I was doing some research on some ways that maybe I could, you know, like you can't do acupuncture over
No.
Zoom. Like
Over
if you could do
Zoom.
that, bro, we'd all be on my private jet, right? Like, and so I started to reach first and foremost. What I did was I reached out to some of my mentors, some great people in this space that had crushed it in my space, and they were giving me some, you know, value advice. And you know, I turned to prayer and discernment, and just thinking about, you know, what route do I want to go, to really support my family. And then I started to kind of do some research, and my niece, you know, at the time she was 16, was on this new app called TikTok, and there's all the buzz at the time, but not many people were on. Everybody was over on Meta, and you know, I had missed the boat on the free likes and follows on that app at that time. And so I was at this grocery store in the States called Whole Foods, and my wife actually goes, she grabbed this essential oil from the shelf, and she goes, you know, what do you know about this? You know, what does it do? And I'm like, oh, this is great for acne scarring. And she's like, oh my gosh, we need to make a TikTok on that. And I'm like, okay, great. My wife's actually a former Walt Disney World Imagineer, and she just has an amazing mind to be able to communicate with people and you know, share a message. And I said, sure, let's make a video. So we busted out the camera, and I talked about the 3 benefits of rosehip oil for acne scarring. And while we continued to shop, he just posted the video, and by the time we were out of the store, it had 300 views. That night, it had 3,000 views, and this is about 5-6 years ago. And then literally, by the time the weekend was done, we had like 3 million views, and that video just
Wow.
constantly kept going. I mean, we're still getting like some
Wow.
shares on it. It's wild. And so from there, you know, that one video, we started just make more and more and carving out time. And by the way, if you're like nervous or you're afraid of being on camera, that is just normal. I want to tell you that if
Yeah.
you're listening, right? And some, you know, I look back at some of my videos that I started with even before that one, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what was I doing? But really, the key is to be consistent with it, and then eventually something is
Yeah.
going to hit, right? So that's kind
Yeah.
of the timeline. And so at that point from there, you know, we're now nearing 500,000 followers, and just, you know, doing some really cool things with as a TikTok creator, in partnership with them as well, and some other apps, and just haven't looked back since. But I promise you, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Definitely, man. And one thing you said about consistency, I really do believe that is key. You know, on social media, luck is a big factor, but I don't like to say it's luck, because everybody has their luck, but the people who actually receive that luck are people who show up every day. Because if you don't show up every day, the day when you're supposed to be lucky, you might as well miss it. That luck comes and you miss it if you don't show up every day, you know?
So true. It's so true. And it's so interesting when you put in the time, how much luck just comes to you even more. When you put in the
Yeah.
work, when you put in the sweat, blood, tears, the dedication, you know, when everybody's partying and it's a holiday and you're up and you're grinding. I always tell people entrepreneurship is like jumping off a cliff and trying to build an airplane on the way down, right? And you could do it, anybody can do it, right? But then they're successfully flying it, and it's very hard, it's very difficult. But I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
there was a study that was done, and I might be veering a little bit, but I think this is, I just have a feeling this is important for people to know. There was a study that was done on orcas, whales in the ocean.
Okay.
And they found that whales in captivity lived half as long as whales that were wild and free. That's
Wow.
entrepreneurship. That's what is taking up coaching, is living wild and free. And I promise you, the reward is going to be far greater than just being caged in at an office in a cubicle with a badge and swiping in and out, the same routine every time. It's life changing. And so I want to encourage you to
Yeah.
take a dip into the vast ocean. It might be scary, but
It
through
is
listening to
scary.
podcasts like this and aligning yourself, you're gonna do great. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. I really do resonate with, you know, your words, because, you know, I know what it's like to be in that 9 to 5 space. You know, as you said, just swiping that card, doing the fingerprint thing on the machine, and just clocking in and clocking out. It's really, you know, they say it's a rat race, but people don't like that term, but it's actually true. You're not free. You're in a cage until you know, live in the wild like those whales. You're only living half your life. You're only living half your potential, maybe even zero, none of your potential. You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what I would say is, huh? Okay.
Go ahead. No, go
Go
ahead.
on,
Go
go
ahead.
on.
Go ahead.
No. It's your show, man. Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's all good. I was just going to say, how we communicate with our audience through marketing. If you're fired up and you're kind of just hearing this, it's evolved drastically, right? And I think a lot of the speed and there's a lot of unknowns, and it's like, what's the right app to be on? But here's the thing: whether you're on an app, you're off an app, whether you're in person, you're on social, and you're developing this business, it's important to understand, because everything's drastically evolving so much. Even over just the past year or 2 years with AI and such, there are a few things that have stood the test of time. And number one, I think, is going to be understanding and knowing who you are and what your mission is. Obviously, we covered that at the beginning of this.
Yeah.
I believe that number two is trusting, knowing that you will deliver on what you say you're going to do, which I just went over. And then three is like knowing and communicating to others that you care about them, right? And I think if you have that formula, it doesn't matter if things change, if things drastically change, as long as there's the understanding, there's the trust factor, and there's the love that you actually care about your audience. It doesn't matter, where you want to go. So I always say, fear not, and take the road less traveled.
Definitely. And one thing about social media and coaches and experts is, like, usually the usual type of setting is coaches and experts are not usually, they don't usually know how social media works and how everything works. You see most times coaches accounts, they just whip out a camera and post and say, hey, and they end up with like 20 views. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying that's a bad start. It's definitely good to start there. But how would you say you overcame that, in terms of, obviously your first one was a banger, but how do you think, like, coaches and creators should overcome that hump of, like, not knowing what to do, and, like, maybe they sort of feel like, oh, I'm not getting results, maybe I should just drop it,
Yeah. And I totally get it. Well, I maybe left out a key part of my story, but I was on TikTok for about 9 months before that video hit. That's a really, really good question. A lot of coaches and experts understand how social media works, for sure, but they hit a wall when it comes to consistently creating content that actually grows their audience and converts, right?
Yeah.
And so how I overcame that is I focused on serving, not just posting. Instead of asking, what should I post today, I started asking, what does my audience need to hear today? And this really shifted the content from random posts to strategic, high value content. I created a simple content framework, and I found that successful content really falls into 4 categories. Number one is education. That's quick, actionable. And for my business, it was health tips, or with your real estate tips or financial tips, or whatever the tips are in your business, like how to improve your digestion using traditional Chinese medicine. Because no one wakes up in the morning, they're like, oh, I'm going to go get acupuncture, I want to go drink bone broth, for my, gut health, right? They're waking up in the morning, they're looking in the mirror, or they're like, I see fine lines and wrinkles, like, what do I do about it? That's what they're thinking, right? And so education is key. And I like to call it edutainment. Engaging, driven content is key. If you go see our Instagram page, or our TikTok page, or other pages, YouTube, you're going to constantly see polls on our accounts at Acupuncture Fit. You're going to see Q&As, or even reactionary videos. There's so many ways that you can drive the engagement there. Like, I don't count the number of views, follows, I count the level of engagement that I have. And that's why I'm really proud to say, after 5 years of really grinding hard, and then prior to that 1 year of just 80 followers to start, and then that grew slowly, I would say that's really, this is what really made us in the top 4% of all health creators globally. And when it comes to that framework, personal storytelling, talking about your journey, other success stories with maybe coaches or clients that you've had in the past, or if you're just getting started, maybe, reach out to a friend or family member just to see, hey, work with them for free to start, even to start, right? Again, I believe
Yeah.
everybody should charge eventually, but, maybe trade as a currency, a testimonial from them. So you can start kind of like building this bank, and then, just talk. TTP and TTMP, talk to people and talk to more people. Promote. And it doesn't have to be in your face. It doesn't have to be just from a pompous perspective. It's just really about understanding what somebody else wants, what somebody else needs, what's gonna, what can you share that's gonna impact on their life to make them better. So that's what I did. I could keep going on and on about this topic, but I studied a lot about what already worked. I leveraged the algorithm, when it comes to the framework. I studied a lot of the framework of a lot of other people in the space and what they were doing. And then I just created a system for the content creation. And I think that system is what's taken a lot of the anxiety, a lot of the paralysis by analysis, and me stopping started out. Was I built something that I just plugged in. I set hard boundaries on the time, and then I unplugged and then went on with the rest of my life. And I do that now weekly, monthly, and that's pretty much our system. So
I think that's brilliant, especially what you said about that, analysis paralysis. I think a lot of coaches, not even just coaches, creators in general, they have that analysis paralysis. Oh, what am I doing right? What? Just focus on, as you said, getting a system, and maybe you want to share that system with our audience, how it has helped you.
Yeah. So instead of just winging it, I batch create content in advance. And that helps me stay consistent without feeling overwhelmed. That's really the key. And I think that's the key to like many things in life and business as well. Just thinking about your personal life, right? Thinking about your professional life and the time, your time. It's something you'll never ever get back. How are you structuring your time? So, when I was super busy in practice, I had really little time to create these videos. One 15-second video, we just actually did a collaboration with a small mattress company called Sleep Number. But people don't realize that one, and they realized it, and that's why I went in an agreement with them. And one short video takes about 6 to 8 hours, like one really good video from start to concept to post. And so, it takes time. So I want to encourage you, if you're listening to this, me personally, like if I was starting over again, I would rather put out one great video rather than 4 or 5 just good videos per week. And so what the system is literally I carve out about an hour to 2 hours, per week, where I just film, right? And at the time then, now I have a team to help me, but I would create another couple of hours in my schedule, then to edit the content and then post it. But really the key and the last and final part of the system is really listening to what my audience wants. And how I do that is just by watching how they vote. How are the views on one video versus the other? If one got more views and one got less views, or one got more engagement, the other got less engagement, I would lean into the one and make more videos on the one that got more engagement. And then I would start back at the beginning. That time period in my week comes up, create the content, right? And then just rinse and repeat. So that's pretty much the system on a high level or a higher level.
You know what? That is amazing, and I'll tell you why. That is amazing, because that is similar and maybe exactly our system as well, the way we work at Simplex. And I'll just break it down. As I said before, like, we help creators because it's a real hassle. Like, obviously, we're saying start and do, but it's not easy, especially if you want to focus on fulfilling, your ends in terms of your clients. It's a real hassle. So what we do, we help creators. So this is just for the audience in general. We take away, as the doctor said, we take away a couple hours from your schedule every month to film, and we handle the rest for you: editing, ideation. We even help you script, so you don't even have to worry about scripting. We worry about everything, and you have to worry about making the videos, so you're the voice of the page, and we help you do everything else. So it's like just have a system in place, whatever that system is. It doesn't have to be Simplex, but have a system in place. And I think that's the most important thing. And I think this is a good place for us to sort of transition into business and how the business has grown over the years.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. And here's the thing, it's not linear. The growth has not been linear at all. Yeah, and you know, there's only so much we could talk about it in an hour podcast, but I think you know, when you start something new, there's like there's a great book, and if you've ever read it yet, it's called Rocket Fuel, and they talk a lot about how when you start something new, there's going to be a little bit of a dip. There's going to be some you know, losses, heartache. There's going to be some trimming of the fat, and that's like really good, because when things exit from your life, exit from your business, it just creates space for newer things to come into your life. That's why environment is so important. Bring in people, you know, in your ecosystem to fill those voids when they do kind of start to shed. And so in my business, you know, anytime we have a dip, right, I just know that through a lot of the hard work and the smart work that we do, that we're just going to blast off, right? And it kind of goes like this, up, down, as it trends upward. But that's one thing I want to, you know, relate it if you're listening right now. You know, when I first started my business, it was primarily in-person acupuncture practice, right? So I was working one-on-one with patients, and then I quickly realized that I could, you know, help more than just one person at a time in my office, and that my impact was being really limited by geography and by time. And so, you know, I started sharing these tips right on social media, and as it started to resonate with more and more people, I recognized there was a huge gap in accessible, high quality natural health education. And so from there, I launched what's called naturalflix.com, and that's our group health coaching program. It's a video membership platform where I get to show up on live and answer, you know, in groups, people's questions. And then they get from there, learn how to, you know, integrate their care. And then from there, we continued leveraging the growth of social media. I mean, the real game changer was the virality on TikTok. You know, growing an audience to nearly 500,000 followers gave me a global reach and opened doors for other brand collaborations, scaling not only our group coaching program, but we have a high ticket program. And then really where my heart is happiest is I've now been able to scale and diversify into the nonprofit side of things. So recently I launched a nonprofit. We just got approval called the Acupuncture Fit Initiative, which we do pilot programs called Giving Health. And it's an initiative focused on making holistic healthcare accessible to underserved communities. And, you know, when I finally got that approved, at that point is when I knew this was a full circle moment for me, because, you know, now I'm able to give back on a much larger scale while still growing my coaching and business ventures. So where the business is now, you know, I have a brick and mortar in multiple states here in the United States. I help also patients virtually through virtualtcm.com one-on-one. I have a group coaching and membership platform called naturalflix.com. And, you know, I get to just share organically on TikTok and with many people, nearly 500,000 followers, through creating just great organic content that's just a lead generation for my program, right? And then, of course, everything comes back because I can give back by expanding access to what I practice for those who are underserved in these communities.
I think that's amazing, especially the part where, you know, you said you have the nonprofit thing. I think that's amazing, and it's definitely full circle, because not only are you able to help in ways that, not only are you able to help, you know, the people who can afford your services, but you're also doing it to people who can't, and I think that's amazing. I also picked on something you said, which was virtual TCM. You know, you said acupuncture can be done over Zoom. Tell us about how TCM can be done over Zoom.
Yeah, I love that. And that came with a lot of thought, by the way. That came from a mentor of mine. Told me a lot of great people, if you'll notice, there's one thing that they consistently do, whether it's Mother Teresa or Gandhi or whoever, you know, you follow, one thing that they all do is they take time to think. And that's something that is so uncommon in our society today. Carving out time to just be in silence and pray, meditate, just think. And this came to me actually. I was like, how can I serve people online? I've got this massive following. And I thought to myself, we have this ancient technique called element typing. And if you want to figure out your element type, we have a fun free assessment. It's elementtype.com. Again, that's elementtype.com. And it's one of the techniques that's thousands of years old that I use personally to heal my body, and I've used for thousands of people. And what it is, it's understanding your shape and your size and how you're made. And we move you to diet or food therapy programs. Once we know that, we get further clarity on what herbal therapies, maybe even what jobs fuel you or what workouts fuel you. So it eliminates a lot of the guesswork. And this really is the heart of my mission, is spreading your element type. Think of like the Enneagram, but for health, or a personality health profile for your health. And so that's where virtualtcm.com was born. TCM stands for traditional Chinese medicine. And so what we do online in an initial discovery call is we figure out, what, is lacking, where are the deficiencies in your health. And then from there, we move you through getting your actual element type, earth, fire, metal, water, or wood. And then we take that and look that through that lens for so many aspects of health. So that's essentially what virtualtcm.com is, pain, infertility, addiction, weight loss, you name it, terminal, rare, severe cases. I get to jump one-on-one and have calls and a very, very low intro. And so if you go check out, virtualtcm.com, you can see the special that we have on there. And please let me know, if you heard about us from this podcast, because this podcast is just amazing. And we've been able to have, and I know we'll be able to have an impact on so many people listening to this.
Definitely. Your insights, I know if I say this, it's going to sound like I'm flattering and I say this to everyone, but definitely not. Your insight on social media that you have given on this podcast, I have to say, is the best I have listened to myself from hosting this podcast.
Wow, that means the world to me. Well, hey, man, it's the big man upstairs guiding me and just listening to what he wants me to do. So I'm honored.
I think that's amazing. Now, we're kind of coming to the end of it, and let me just hit you with this. What is one thing you wish I asked you on this podcast, Dr. Anis?
Oh man, that's a really good question. Because man, we could spend hours, bro. I just think you're so cool. Vibe, man. You're a great interviewer, by the way.
Thanks, appreciate it.
I would say, man, that's just the heart of a servant leader, though. I'm really floored by that question. No one ever asked me that question before. I think that a great question would be this: is what's the biggest misconception about growing on social media, or even as a health expert? Like, what's that misconception? And I believe that a lot of people, or do you want me to answer it or just give you the question?
Sure. Go ahead. You're already cooking. Might as well finish the dish.
Finish the dish and have some dessert. I love it. A lot of people think that you need perfect production quality. You need a big budget, or even a massive following to be successful on social media. But really the truth is this: authenticity and consistency beat everything time and time again. When I started on social, I wasn't focused on going viral. I was focused on giving value. I didn't overthink lighting, scripts, or fancy edits. I just showed up consistently, answered real health questions, and built trust with my audience. And the biggest mistake coaches make is waiting until everything is perfect before they start. The best time to start is now. Refine as you go. Your audience doesn't care if your video is shot on an iPhone or a pro camera. They care if you're solving their problems.
Yeah, and I feel like also on top of solving their problems, like that connection, because social media, the reason people get stuck on social media is like they cannot connect with people in real life. So they go to social media to find people who they can connect with, to find a community, a group of people. And if you can be genuine, I don't know if there's the right word, but it smells. People can smell it, even over the screens, if you're genuine or not. People can smell it. So if you are genuine, you are authentic. Hey, this is my life. This is what I'm doing. I'm just trying to share the journey. There are people like you. There are people who are who were where you were yesterday, if you know what I mean. So they are looking for that extra step, that extra bit of advice, that extra piece of experience, and you are helping them. And I think that is basically making content for your younger self. And I think that is if you do that, I don't think there's any way you can go wrong in terms of growth on social media, because there are always going to be people who are in those shoes that you were in, and you making that content for someone who you were 2 years ago, 2 months ago, 2 days ago, I think is the best thing that you can do for social media.
And brother, if I can be just that much better than I was the person yesterday, a week ago, a year ago, back to third grade, I call that a successful day.
Yes, definitely. And I think we've come full circle here, Dr. Renis. And where can the people go to, learn and find more about your work?
It is so great. Well, thank you so much again for having me on here. All of our accounts are at Acupuncture Fit. You can hit us up, and I'm actively DMing in the messaging. If you want to head on over and jump on a free health assessment, it's elementtype.com. Again, that's elementtype.com. It's a fun assessment. If you want to take it a step further deeper, I actually do the personal one-on-one coaching calls. I'd love to have an intro call with you. That's heading on over to virtualtcm.com. Again, that's virtualtcm.com to really look and see how we can maybe take your health to the next level.
Definitely. And you said on social media, it's what? Acupuncture Fit?
Acupuncture Fit, at Acupuncture Fit, like fitness.
Lovely. I think the people will definitely connect with you, TikTok, everywhere. And yeah, Dr. Renis, it's been great having you on, and hope to catch up with you again sometime.
Appreciate you, Mike. It's a pleasure.
I really hope you enjoyed this podcast. I want you to go away and execute everything there is that you've learned. Now, one thing I will say is if you're in a position where you're ready to actually take things to another level, you want structured, clear guidance, you want a team that can actually help accelerate you, book in a chat with our advisors. Why? We can blow up your personal brand to attract clients begging to work with you. All you got to do is book in a chat with our advisors and we can help make it happen. Sound fair enough?